Hope is here. The way to break free with your host, Angela Pedigo, will light a flame within you. Host Angela Pedigo is an author, speaker, and certified life recovery, grief, and joy restoration coach. Angela uses her own life experiences to help you navigate and guide you to success. She also has developed tools that incorporate her faith and her drive to overcome any obstacle in life. So please welcome the host of The Way to Break Free, Angela Pedigo.
Welcome, everybody, to The Way to Break Free. I'm your host, Angie Pedigo. I'm so glad you've joined us today. We have something a little different today, and I'm super stoked about it. I have my dear, sweet friend, Taylor Malone here. I've gotten to know Taylor over the last several years, and she is just such a good friend, and she does so much. She wears so many hats, and I was like, Taylor, come on the show, and what do you want to talk about? And she's a mom of a child that's on the autism spectrum, and that's a passion on her heart. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So I hope you've tuned in today for that. If you know of anybody who's a parent and deals with children, that are on the spectrum, share this with them, because sometimes there's just something about peer-to-peer support, isn't it? And having that ability to be able to connect with somebody that says, hey, they know what I feel, and they get it. So I think today there's some people out there that's going to be able to say, I get it. She gets me. So Taylor, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today. Tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your son.
Well, me and my husband have been married, I guess, 8 years. Almost 9. And we have 2 little boys. Devin, who is my oldest, he is my one on the spectrum, and he is 7. And then we have a 4-year-old named Hudson that makes up for he is something.
Oh boy, huh?
Yes, for sure. He 2 totally different. And it's fun to watch them grow.
Yeah. Do they do well with each other?
Most days.
They
do fight like brothers, but most days they're pretty good together.
That's awesome. Well, so he's 7, right? That's what you said? All right. So take us back to the early days. Like when, how was things? Did you know immediately, that he had autism? Like, when did you discover that?
When he was about 15 months, we noticed that something was just off. And it was almost like overnight, something just changed in him.
Really?
Like, he didn't walk till he was about 15 months, but he was a big boy. So we didn't really think nothing of it.
Yeah.
And then he just started getting to where he wouldn't make eye contact with us where he used to. And it was just like noticing he couldn't, he just wasn't meeting his milestones like he should. And before we could even express concern to his pediatrician just came out and was like, we need to get him some services. And that's when we started with TIS, which is Tennessee Early Intervention Services. And they came out and evaluated him, and he qualified for several services through them. And they will actually do it without a diagnosis. They just need a pediatrician referral. So we were able to start getting him services before we even had a diagnosis, because the wait list to get him tested was like 19 months long.
Really?
Yeah. We didn't get him tested till it was right before he turned 3. He turned 3 June of, I guess, 2019, and we got him tested that April.
So, wow. Yeah. To have a wait list that long just magnifies how serious the situation is. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, we waited, well over a year. And it was, we called, our doctors called, we stayed on them, and it was just, they were that many people trying to get tested for it.
Wow. So what was it like when the pediatrician told you that you were going to need to get him some services and stuff? Did you know at that point? Kind of did they go into like detail about what you were facing at that point, or were they just kind of like doing it based on development?
They were kind of just doing it based on development, and I guess I was very naive to it. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, he's behind, but nothing's wrong with him.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't want to think that my child was going to have that label for the rest of his life. Like,
had you dropped that word yet?
No.
Okay.
No. It was like a bad word in our house. Like, I was like, no, like, we're not speaking that over him. Like, you know, no, he's just behind. Like,
yeah,
you know, he was my first kid, so of course I babied him. You know, I was like, he's just behind because he's just been everything done for him. Like, you know, he'll come, and he improved a lot with his services. I mean, they were very, very helpful, but he still was nowhere near up to where he should have been. Mm-hmm. And like, I think it got real for me when they called to confirm our appointment to have him tested. And I was like, all right, like, I guess I should probably start thinking about that. And then, like, they told us that day, it was a super long day. I was very pregnant, and I was like,
with your second child?
Yes. We had Hudson in June as well. So, I was like 7 months pregnant, and so I was already emotions all over the place.
I cannot imagine.
And then, like, we were there probably 4 or 5 hours. I mean, they had him do all kinds of tasks and stacking blocks and all kinds of stuff. And then, I mean, they told us that day that he fell on the spectrum, and I kept it all together in there, but the whole car ride home, I was like, I think I was in shock almost. Like, I felt like, almost like grieving. The life I hope for my child, like, he's not going to have that.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, it hit like a ton of bricks. I felt like, why? I asked why a lot, and I know we're not supposed to ask why, but I did.
That's our human nature.
But I just, getting through that diagnosis was probably the hardest part. It took me months. I mean, I can say it now, but I had the biggest pity party. You know, our world was done for. Like, I didn't think we could live a normal life. Like, how would I take him, you know, with another baby? Yeah. And then, don't ever get on Google. Reading on Google, you know, they say if you have a special needs child, especially with autism, that your second one, being a boy, which we were having, the odds are even more. So I was like, how am I going to handle 2?
Yeah.
But it hit really hard when we finally got diagnosed, and it felt like the life I wanted for my kid was over.
So did anything change from the point of like the diagnosis, like, you know, all the services and things that you were getting, that the pediatrician had, you know, set up? What changed for you guys after the point of diagnosis, or did things just pretty well run the same?
We still continued until he aged out of the TES. I think when he turned 3, he aged out of their services. But now that we had a diagnosis, we got set up with outside therapies, and he did those several times a week, many hours. We still spend a whole lot of time at therapy.
Yeah. Did you ever regret getting the diagnosis? Because I think sometimes sometimes in what I do, I hear people talk about not wanting that label, or not wanting that diagnosis, but there are benefits, it sounds like, from getting the diagnosis, because there's if it's a truly a condition of theirs, because there's services that are forfeited if you don't have that, right? I mean, don't some things you have to have that to do?
For a lot of things, you have to have a diagnosis to get help with it. And I debated for a long time about getting him tested.
Yeah.
I was like, well, put us on the wait list, but I probably won't go when they call. Like, he's going to progress and it's going to be fine. We're not going to need to go. And I was just still in such denial, like, that something was wrong with my kid. But I'm glad we went, because it did open a lot of doors for him to get a ton more services. So
what were some of the things that you would start seeing him do, like with his, like, you talk about the milestones and he did improve, like, what are some of those things?
So food was a big one. He has really big food aversions, and he will eat a few different things now. And then, like, he has to stack or line up everything perfectly. And if you put something out of place, even if we're cleaning up toys and something gets out of place, he will go get it and put it where it goes. Yeah. He's real, like, particular with stuff like that.
I've heard on the food aversion things, that's not just because, like, there's a lot of things that people don't understand about autism. It's not just the child, like, being stubborn or not, wanting it, but they have a true, like, texture issue, right? Like, if you've ever eaten something that, makes you, like, I can't stand the way that feels or the way that tastes, or, like, if somebody told me to eat raw oysters, I can't do that. I cannot do that. But it's like a texture thing. It's not just, trying to be defiant or anything like that. Like, there's something they're battling that they can't really tell you. Yeah. That you have to take into consideration. So, yeah.
He has big time, like, sensory processing disorder. And I mean, even down to the type of clothes he wears, like, he cannot have a tag, period. He will not wear it. I mean, it does not matter. Underwear, pants, shirt, nothing can have a tag. Yeah. Certain materials he can't wear. If his sock doesn't line up right, I mean, he can't. Like, he literally cannot walk. Like, he cannot do it.
Yeah. Someone had shared with me one time, there was a therapist years and years ago, and she had explained, which, of course, that's been so long ago now. There's been 20 years worth of research that's probably been done since then too. But, like, in their world, that sometimes it's like how we would look at, like, a magic eye puzzle, those that you can get at the little knick-knack stores or whatever, and you stare at it long enough and you can kind of see that there's a picture in it, but, like, to remove one is like shaking up, you got to resort all of that. We just never know what's going on in their little brains, and, like, what it's like in their world, what they have to live with. And it looks on the outside, if you were comparing typical child to typical child, you would think one was just being defined, but it's not about that at all. That there's something underlying in there that they can't even express. So, yeah, bless his heart. The whole clothing thing. So what is that like? Like, well, I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break first. We're going to come back. Let's get into the momhood when we come back. So we're going to take a quick break, just a moment.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery, or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back from the break. We are talking with Taylor Malone about autism spectrum disorder. She's sharing her journey with her child with us today. So let's dive into the momhood. Girl, my heart goes out to you and every parent who, it comes with a whole additional set of patience.
Yeah.
What's it like? What's a typical day like in your life?
Well, he still gets a ton of therapy services. Right now he's at 32 hours a week of therapy services. And then he's also in the CDC class. He is in 2nd grade. So he's at one of our local elementary schools. He goes 3 half days a week. But we always laugh. I really think I'm a taxi driver. We drive over I think it's about 250 miles a week, and we never leave Lafayette, just between taking him to therapy and school. Wow. And that's just for him.
Wow.
So it's a lot. He puts in a lot of hours. He works very hard. But
is it hard in the mornings routines and
it's getting better, but there were times like brushing his teeth. Could not do it. He could not stand even a toothbrush, touching his teeth. No.
How do you work through something like that, or do you?
Some days we do. Some days, if I'm being honest, I just don't even have the energy to muster up to do it. Yeah. Pick your battles.
Yeah, right. And you definitely have to pick your battles.
If we're dressed and we're out the door, then okay, today's just not the day.
Yeah.
But haircuts, even things like that are just, it's a whole lot. We can't take him to a normal place to get a haircut.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law has had to cut his hair his whole life. And even then, it's just now, we've been cutting hair for 6 years, and it's just now getting to where he'll sit still without someone holding him down.
Yeah.
Everyday things you would do with your child, are magnified times 10.
Yeah.
Doing it with someone like Devin.
Things we take for granted. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's it like? How do you integrate the two worlds? Because your other son, he's not on the spectrum.
No.
So sometimes you have to be in mom mode one way, and sometimes you have to be in mom mode the other way. How do you balance the two?
It's hard.
Do you feel like you just have to take hats off and put different hats on?
My poor Hudson, he grew up, I mean, from the time he was born, he was in therapy waiting rooms. Like, he's grown up. He'll tell you, we gotta take Bubby to therapy. Like, he knows what time it is, and he's just a trooper. He's rolled with it. And then with Devin, we've worked really hard getting him to do normal tasks, like going to the grocery store, sit down and eat dinner somewhere. That was a huge thing. There was years, probably about a 2-year period, where we could not take him in a grocery store. We could not take him in a restaurant to eat. I mean, he would just absolutely melt down.
Yes.
And we just pushed through it and pushed through it. And, you know, I was like, one day it's just going to click with him that this is what we do. You have to go into a grocery store. Like, you're going to have to when you get old. You know, I want to have him completely prepared for a life without me. And it's hard. Like, I mean, there were days, I can't tell you how many times I've had to just pull him out of the cart and leave a cart full of groceries and just go to the car and we'll try again tomorrow. Yeah. Like, it's just always. But it's getting a lot better the more we've done it. And so Hudson does get to do some normal things.
Yeah.
And just finding that balance is hard. We don't really ever get to do things all together. Because between me and my husband, one of us will always have to stay with Devin. But one day he'll be able to do all things too. I'm believing it.
You got to keep that faith, right?
Yeah.
How do you? So you were talking about that attitude that you had about that one day it's just going to click, and you have pushing through.
Yeah.
How much has persistence paid off in his growth?
So much. He can brush his teeth now. I mean, even now. He's a 7-year-old boy. He don't want to do it good, but he will brush his teeth now. Even potty training. He just recently, probably in the last year, became potty trained.
Yes.
And that was a fight. It's still a fight at home, but he'll do it at school and therapy. But when he gets home, he's like, I've done that all day. Don't you ask me to do that. But it's really, I mean, for us to have any sense of normal life, we have to just keep going. Even on the hard days, we just cry, and then we don't let them win. Yes. We restart the next day.
How do you find the motivation to do that restart? What keeps you going?
Lots of prayers. Lots of prayers. I pray a whole lot.
I can only imagine.
And there's days where I don't have the motivation to keep going. And there's been days I've dropped him off at school and just been like, I can't. We need to go back to bed for a little bit. But then, like, it gets easier to get yourself up.
Yeah.
But I also have to remember that it is okay to have those days.
Yes.
Like, what we go through is heavy.
Yeah.
And you have to give yourself grace.
It's okay to not be okay.
It is okay to have those days. It's okay. I still sometimes cry for just his, like grieving for the normal life I wanted him to have, because his normal looks totally different than most.
Yeah.
And, I worry about Hudson and, is he trying to make sure he has a normal childhood and gets to do all the things. And then, how am I going to manage it with both of them? And it's a constant struggle, but really just building the support I have and just knowing that I pray a lot, and I know that he wouldn't put more on me than I could handle, even though I might not understand why. It's just, he always makes a way.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of times he equips us for whatever he calls us to do. And sometimes that momhood is to be a mom of a child who's going to need a lot of extra love and attention. And he strengthens you when you don't have the strength to go. But he says to find rest with him. And you tell me, what is one of the biggest milestones that you've seen persistence pay off in? Like from where he was to where he is today, like what's one of the biggest changes that you've seen his growth?
There's so many. Really just like his quality of life. I mean, he went from not being able to do a single thing for himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so far behind. Like, other kids were dressing himself and he was nowhere near that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then just seeing him where now he will act like he don't know what he's doing, but he is so smart. You just got can't let him fool you. But he now, I mean, he can dress himself most time when he's not being a little tired. But and then just like, I mean, putting on his shoes and just being able to put on his backpack and just he's doing a lot more that a child his age can do.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to get the therapy. It's good to push through, but sometimes some days you just don't feel like it.
Yep.
Like I keep thinking about you leaving the cart of the groceries and going and like, we'll try again tomorrow.
Yep.
That's totally okay. It's okay to do that. Wow. So you were talking about living a normal life and like his quality of life changing. How has having both of them, like, okay, outsider looking in, right? I see you doing all of these things and you to hear your struggle, you wouldn't know you go through that struggle because like your life is very full.
Yeah.
And I want to dive into that. We're going to take a quick break, but I want to dive into that more when we come back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back from the break. We are talking with Taylor Malone. She is a mom of 2 sweet little boys, one of which is on the autism spectrum, and she is sharing mom life with what that's like. So before the break, we had, kind of started talking a little bit about trying to live in both worlds, with both kids, typical and then, ASD. outsider looking in, we don't see what people struggle with internally around. We don't know what people take home or what they have to go home to. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's ASD or something else. We don't know. But outsider looking in, like, I watch you thrive, and like, you're coaching T-ball and you have a full-time job that is super demanding. Tell us, like, yeah, what do you do for you? And like, how do you keep things as typical as possible?
Well, I found one of the biggest things is allowing myself extra time. We get to the ball fields early for practice. That way Devin can have time to get integrated with being there. I found we take our normal activities and we just kind of quirk them a little bit to fit his needs too. Just by doing things like letting him get there early before everyone gets there so he doesn't get overwhelmed with the crowd. Mm-hmm. Like, just little things like that make our life easier.
Yes.
And also his as well.
Yeah.
And allows us to have as much of a normal life as we can.
Yeah. So how do you do it? Like, tell us about coaching T-ball. This was a cute story we were talking about at the break.
So this year I thought I signed up to be assistant, but I guess when I was doing it online, they told me I signed up to be a head coach. And I was like, when they called, I was like, no, I can't do that. Like, ain't no way with Devin. I cannot. And they were like, well, we ain't got no other coaches, so we're kind of telling you. And I thought, okay. Like, well, I guess then. And
now you signed Hudson up to play.
Yes. Devin has no interest. We've tried. He's just like, nope, I don't want no part of that. There is a rock pile in the parking lot at our local T-ball fields up here. And if you ever go there, you will see Devin on top of the rocks. Aww. That is his favorite spot. It sits up so high he can overlook all the park, and he is just king of the world up there. He loves it. You will see him up there with his tablet and just in his own little world, but he loves it.
Isn't that nice? Yeah, so you manage both worlds that way. That's really cool. And too, you have a full-time job. Like, I know a lot of parents are trying, struggle with like the demands of life. I mean, you still got to get to all the therapy, get to school, take care of the other child, get to, having to work. We still have to pay bills and eat and all those kind of things. So how do you do it? Like, tell us, how demanding is your job, and what all does that take off of you?
Mine's very demanding, and my husband's is as well. Mm-hmm. He's a Nashville fireman. But luckily, we were both really blessed with his schedule is 24 on, 48 off.
Nice.
And then my schedule is really flexible, so it allows us to, one of us is always there to get the kids because we don't have any family up here.
Yeah.
Like, our closest family that can help us is an hour and 20 minutes away. So it's like they can't come pick them up on their lunch break and take Devin from school to therapy. Like, we're on our own. Mm-hmm. So we've both been really blessed to have jobs that they're tough, but they allow us the flexibility of being able to get Devin the services he needs. Because I know a lot of parents who, they don't have that. Mm-hmm. And their kid misses out on therapy because they don't have anyone to get them there. They can't get them there because they have to work. So like you said, bills are expensive.
They're not going anywhere.
Yeah. So I'm really thankful that we have that. And now that we have the clinic here in Lafayette, it has helped even more. Because we were driving all the way to Mount Juliet 3 times a week to get services. So
more remote areas do struggle for services available for everybody that way. So that's been a blessing for our community as well.
Yeah, it has been.
So how do you build community? How do you build sense of community when you don't have family and you kind of have to surround yourself with people that kind of like help and adopt you as family as well? How do you build a sense of community?
So, believe it or not, I am like super shy. Like I will not talk. Like people probably think I'm rude half the time, but it's just I'm so shy. Like now, if you come up and talk to me, I'll talk. But I just get so like, and my husband is the opposite. He could talk to a brick wall. So, but just I had to get out of my comfort zone, and I had to like introduce myself to some of the parents in Devin's class, like because he's always been in the CDC class. So I'm like, look, these parents get it, they know. So sometimes I've just had to like this is gonna be awkward, but I'm just gonna introduce myself,
Yeah.
And then a lot of the kids he's been with, because he started in the school system when he was 3. So I mean, he's been with some of these kids for almost 5 years now. So it's like we've grown like with their parents, and just like seeing their kids' victories too. It's almost like it's kind of like a little family.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure you can draw hope from each other too.
Yes.
Like when one of your kids hits a milestone, that there's hope for your child's next milestone. So
for sure,
that's got to be encouraging. Yeah.
And then his therapist up here have been like between the school aides and then all of his ABA therapy, like they have been amazing. Like we have been really blessed. This whole community is blessed with what we have up here. And the women up here who do it, they really care. Like we've been with therapists who you're just another client to them. We've had several of those, but up here it's just, I don't know, it's something about this small town living that just, they care and like they support you like on the hard days.
Yeah.
So
do you think I find this sometimes, and this may not even just be in small towns, it may not matter what size of city that you're in, but do you think it's hard for parents who are dealing with ASD and their families to find support groups, like true just ASD support groups?
Yes. Very hard. I know if it wouldn't have been, honestly, most of the moms that I've connected with have been on Facebook, social media. Like, we are just friends on there, and it's always an open door to reach out to any of them.
Are there support groups online, like Facebook groups?
There are some, but I found most of them have a ton of members, and it's really kind of hard to make it,
Yeah, get personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are a lot online. And then, like I was telling you, there's one that just started up here on Monday nights. And I believe it's the 3rd Monday of the month at the Jenkins Center. So I'm excited to hopefully get involved going to that.
Yeah. So tell us about your church family. Like, are you able to go to your church, and does he like get involved there much? And how does he handle that?
Our church family has been amazing. Try not to cry.
That's what we got Kleenexes for, girl.
So one of our church people, like, Devin's a runner. He escapes anywhere. They always laugh, saying our house looks like is more locked down than the local jail. Like, I'm telling you, we have locks on everything. We have 6-foot locks. Like, our house is locked down because Devin will be gone in a flash.
Yeah.
And like, it's really scary. Like, the thought of going somewhere where he could run.
Yes.
Is like overwhelming.
Yeah.
And our church sits right on the highway. So that was like, I was like, we can't go. Like, there ain't no way. I was like, we got to think about the safety of our kid. Like, that's not going to be okay. But they have welcomed us like with open arms, and they know, the greeters at the door know, if you see Devin, you shut the door. It's like they have made adjustments. They always make sure he has a one-on-one when he's in the Kid Strong area. Like, our church has been just amazing through it. They have allowed us to be able to still sit in service, something we never thought we would get to do again. And it just makes all the difference. We really have a community in our church.
Yeah. That's what it's about. That's what we're called to do. We're supposed to jump in and help one another. You know, when they say it takes a village to raise a child, it really does. But then in some cases it feels like 2 villages, right? But the fact that they do that, I mean, that is so amazing that they would do that. I can't imagine how much your heart just, wells up with just gratitude,
Just knowing my kid is going to be taken care of while he's there. So I can sit in an hour-long church service just because sometimes that's the only time me and my husband get to sit together without kids. It refills me to keep going through the week.
That's
so
awesome.
It does my heart good.
Speaking of that refueling, what do you do for self-care? Loaded question yet.
So I do have, depending on which house I'm going to for work, I have a little bit of a commute. So that is my time. I turn on my worship music and I just refuel myself. If you ever see me driving down the road, people probably think I'm crazy, but
are you jamming it out or are you praying it out?
Both. But that's just kind of my me time. And then sometimes I have a couple mom friends of children with special needs, and we'll grab coffee or just something with someone that gets it. Just does your soul good.
Yeah. You got to take those little breaks while you can. Finding those little windows, maybe in between therapy or in between, school. So Hudson, how old is he now?
He's 4.
Okay, is he in preschool or?
Yes.
Gotcha. So you have those little moments maybe sometimes.
He goes 2 days a week, and he loves it.
So we're going to take another quick break, and then we're going to come back and wrap this up. But I want to talk about when we come back, how do you keep faith? So to come back after the break.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
We are back from the break, and we are talking with Taylor about her son and what mom life is like on the autism spectrum. So Taylor, we've covered a lot of different areas of life today, and I'm really glad that we got to do that. I hope parents out there can connect, Say, hey, I am right there with you, sister. I'm feeling that. How do you keep faith? Are there days you just like think this is it? This is all there's going to be? And then how do you what do you do to keep that faith? What keeps you going? Is there something you hold on to, or just?
Lots of prayers. I pray all the time, like all the time. And then just grace, just giving myself grace. Devin is nonverbal, and so just holding on to that.
Yeah.
That one day I'll get to hear him say that he loves me.
No. Oh.
I hold on to that, and that's what keeps me going, whether it be here or in our next life. I know that one day I will get to hear my sweet boy tell me that. And that just keeps me going. I mean, it's what I look forward to more than anything.
And the fact you know that you're going to hear it one day, because you have a Heavenly Father that says, I love you, Taylor, enough to let you hear that. Yeah.
And that just keeps me going. There's days, where I don't think I can do it. Yeah. There's days we pulling up to the school drop-off looking a hot mess, and that's okay. I've learned through all this, I've really learned that to give myself grace, because some days we eat fast food for dinner and we skip bath time, and that's the best I got that day.
It's all right too.
Yes, it is.
There's no room for comparison in this kind of walk you're walking. No room at all.
And then some days, we got it all together, and I've learned that it's okay to do both.
Yes.
And that was, once I grew to be okay with that, it changed for me.
What was the turning point to get to there?
Just knowing that God has a plan and a purpose, and that His peace, He has a peace that just passes all understanding, and really gripping onto that.
Yeah. Yeah. You can still have peace even when it's those tough days, right? As
even
long as you
when
got
it's
God.
chaos, we still got peace.
That's good. That's good. What would you tell other parents that are struggling? Like, what's some advice you could give them, or encouragement? What would you leave them with today?
That you're not alone. No matter how lonely the journey can feel, because some days it feels so lonely, that you're not alone. There's people out there who get it. There's people out there who will listen to you. Who even if you just need to cry, don't be afraid to show yourself grace. Because for a long time, when we first found out, I felt like I had to have it all together. And just accepting the fact that it's okay. We're going to have bad days. Mm-hmm. And as long as we get up the next day and don't let that bad day win, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just to keep going, even when it's hard. Took us 2 years to be able to go to the grocery store. Yeah. But we just keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, and it will get better.
Breakthroughs around the corner. Yeah. And enjoy the small ones.
Yes.
Celebrate the victories. I also want to encourage anybody out there listening today that if maybe somebody out there that you are a parent just like Taylor, and maybe you've had it on your heart in your local communities to start a support group. It doesn't take a whole lot to just locate a meeting place and say, for this hour once a week, we're going to come, and we're just going to, if we just cry together, if we celebrate some victories together, just to have that connection, that peer-to-peer support is huge. I don't care what you're dealing with. Whether it's caregiving, it's addiction, it's whatever it might be, the peer-to-peer support. There's just nothing like that you can grow from each other. And like you said, sometimes online platforms are so large that it's hard to really make just a genuine connection, somebody that you could just, cry on their shoulder, and, also just having a break,
Yeah.
maybe you set up a support group, and one parent gets to go 1 week and another parent gets to go the next week. Cause like you said, you don't get to do a lot of things together.
Yeah.
That's the next thought. What am I going to do with my kids while I'm there? But, if you could take turns going, at least you're, giving each other that break. And I also want to challenge churches. Like, you have heard what this has meant to her today, that her church is doing for her. I want to challenge, worship centers and just communities, or your neighbors, friends, neighbors, family, even, like, how can you reach out and help somebody that that could use that break, could use that moment? Or maybe it's, maybe you're not comfortable watching the kids because, the fear of them running off, or, that sort of thing. But sometimes there's no telling what a listening ear will do, right? Just a phone call, even a phone call to say, how can I help you? Or, like, what are you dealing with? And give you that moment. And so, I want to challenge every one of us to count our blessings, no matter where we're at in our life and what we're doing, and to embrace the blessings that we do have, and try to help carry one another's burdens in other ways that people might be struggling right under our noses. And we just need to take out some time of our own selves to help support. So, Taylor, thank you for coming on the show today. I've just enjoyed this so much. I hope it inspires lots of you out there. I want to thank Bold Brave TV. You have been watching The Way to Break Free on Bold Brave TV. Go like and subscribe anywhere Bold Brave TV is at on any of the platforms, and catch the show live each week. And you never know what we're going to be talking about. So we will hope to see you again next week.
This has been The Way to Break Free with your host, Angela Pedigo. The one thing Angela attributes her personal victories to is her relationship with God and her deep faith. Tune in each week and hear stories and testimonies of people in personal and professional trenches and how they overcome them with their own faith in God. The Way to Break Free has something for everyone, everywhere. Right here, Wednesdays, noon Eastern, on the Bold Brave TV network.